Story 1. An American Girl Doll. I had a childhood friend who took a trip to New York City and surprised me with an American Girl doll. It was a just like you doll. I loved her so much. I didn't come from a great home life. Being raised by a single parent, we had financial struggles. One day, my mom went behind my back and sold the doll. I was heartbroken, but my mom argued that we needed the money. I'm now 27 and just purchased my first American Girl doll. It was secondhand, bought through eBay, but I have no regrets. Story 2. A Build-A-Bear. I had always wanted one growing up, but was always told no because it was too expensive. I finally decided to do it and went through the whole process of making one and filling it with love and wishes. You know, the whole magical process they do for the kids. I haven't slept with a stuffed animal since I was little, and yet I can hold on to my little bear throughout the night and wake up holding it. Whenever I feel sad or homesick, I just cuddle with it and it honestly helps. It may be silly to others, but sometimes your inner child just needs something to feel safe and comforted when life gets overwhelming. And that's okay. Don't let anyone take away what brings you joy. Story 3. A metal detector. I always wanted one as a kid, but my dad said I'd use it a handful of times. Then it would sit and collect dust forever. I bought myself one, and it turns out that my dad was right. Story 4. Not for me, but for my wife before we married. She mentioned to me, as we were talking about a certain type of Barbie doll she had always wanted when she was very young, that her family was really poor and she never got it. During the Christmas that we were together for 2 years and would be getting engaged the next year at her age of 31, I searched and searched the internet for that doll. After much searching, I found it and bought it. I think I paid a couple $100 for the still unopened box Barbie. I gave it to her that Christmas. She was over the moon. She still has it unopened and tucked away in our bedroom closet. I am kind of disappointed she never opened it and at least kind of played with it. Story 5. For me, it is the opposite. My parents bought me and my brother nice things, but then fought constantly about money and often tried to make us feel ashamed for not showing enough appreciation. All I wanted was a functional, safe, and happy home. As an adult, I strive for minimalism and frugality. I take great delight in being frugal and living as simply as possible. I wear plain clothes, drive a plain car, and do not use credit for anything because keeping up with the Joneses is not important, and my parents' priorities were warped. Story 6. Nutella and Pop-Tarts. My parents hated them. I bought both on my 50th birthday. I thought Nutella was too sweet and thick. It was difficult to spread. I could not get through my first jar. Pop-Tarts are awesome. Story 7. When I was little, my grandma bought one of those fiber optic flower lamps. I was obsessed with it and always asked her to turn it on. She ended up putting it in an empty fish tank so I couldn't touch it. I now own 3 of them, and I turn them on whenever I want. Story 8. Weird, but anytime I'm at a parade or fireworks show, I buy whatever my tiny 5-year-old self would have wanted. A light-up unicorn sword? Yes. I love it intensely for that night and then give it to a friend with small children, gilling me and paying it forward. Buy the weird thing. Story 9. A house. My father refused to buy an actual house. We lived in small, tin can trailer homes my entire childhood. It wasn't until I reached adulthood that I basically forced him to sign the papers for my mother to buy a not-so-small trailer home, 14 by 80, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, because the paper ceiling was collapsing, and the mice had eaten the wiring in the 1960s model tin can we'd been in for 20 years. Decades of fear of severe storms, too. I bought a house, something my parents never wanted or managed to do. Story 10. I wasn't denied it as a child, but we never had a recliner growing up, and I always thought of them as a status symbol or sign of making it or being an adult. So when I made it, I got a recliner. Now I'm a successful, functioning, reclining adult. Story 11. I loved those books so much, and my favorite ones were about Samantha. She was always my favorite. I wanted one for Christmas so badly. I never got one. I remember that Christmas. My sister got a brand new Nintendo DS and I got a Barbie doll. They made all sorts of excuses about how I wouldn't play with it and how expensive it was. But all I saw was how much my sister was favored, and that really hurt. 20 or so years later, American Girl is doing a revival of the original style. I bought one so fast it made my credit card scream, but a few weeks later I had the doll I'd always wanted. I don't play with her. She's more of a collector's item, but I get to hold her and brush her hair, and something about it is just so comforting. Story 12, Grapes. Grapes. They are a delicacy in my mind because my parents would never buy them because they were too expensive. The other thing, beverages in restaurants. We only ever got water. Story 13. In general, we always got the cheapest knockoff versions of things. We weren't poor. My parents got quality things, but the kids, if they asked for Crayola, would get some poor quality, too waxy and hard dollar store crayon or secondhand, pre-broken, dirty, and used Crayolas. Now, as an adult, I love providing quality and enjoying quality within our means. Story 14. Food. Growing up with an abusive mother who used it as a weapon and control mechanism. Then got married very young, and we were so dirt poor we were starving for a long time. So when I could eat when and how much I wanted to, I became a massive overeater and comfort eater. Took me years to reach a happy medium. Story 15. Bananas. My parents would never buy them. They always complained about the price and how fast they ripen or rot. There's a simple solution to that. Eat them. Bananas are not all that expensive either. Story 16. Red lipstick. My mom let me wear makeup starting at 13, but I was not allowed to wear red lipstick ever. Even at 17, when I was about to leave home, she'd make me throw it away if I bought any with my own money. She said, "Only whores wear red lipstick." So I wear red lipstick all the time. It's my thing. Story 17. This might sound dumb, but for me it was that thing that sits on the counter to hold a roll of paper towels. I was always told as a kid that we could not afford to waste money on one. Now I have one in every room to overcompensate. Story 18. Every time I get paid, my kids and I always buy a $5 to $10 item each, from candy to blankets or toys. It heals my inner child and makes them so happy when they can pick something out. Story 19. Tasty Cake Butterscotch Crimpets. They tasted like Crisco and artificial flavoring. Nothing at all like I imagined as a kid driving past the Tasty Cake factory on Crimpet Day. Story 20. My kid has a Barbie dream house, her own American Girl doll, my grandmother's American Girl doll that I wasn't allowed to touch, Legos, and a playhouse. The biggest is dental care. She gets regular checkups and has had fillings done. Story 21. Feeding the giraffes at the zoo. It's just a second and it's over. It's not worth it, my mom said. I feed all the animals at the zoo now. The only one that's ever been a disappointment was the parakeets. They weren't really hungry. But that was only $1, so who cares? Story 22. Whipped cream. My parents never bought it. So every once in a while, maybe 3 times a year, I buy it and eat it right out of the can every time I pass the fridge until it's gone. Sometimes I do the same with frosting, but it's very sweet now, even the cream cheese ones. So that's even more rare. Story 23. I grew up with 2 brothers and a sister. Every time we would go to McDonald's, my parents would get us 2 small fries and make us share. And no, 2 small fries didn't go very far between 4 kids, especially when I got to age 10 or so. So now, when I go to McDonald's, which is admittedly not often now that I'm in my 40s, I get a large fries. I used to get supersized back when they had it. And woe to anybody, be they family or significant other, that dares reach for my fries. I spent my childhood fighting over fries, and that is a red line. You reach for my fries at your own risk. Story 24. The good ice cream. Growing up, it was usually a big tub of the generic brand as the birthday treat. Now I can get Ben and Jerry's and not have to share with anybody. Story 25. When I lived in a joint family with my aunt, she would tell me not to eat butter or cheese as it would make me fat. I guess she didn't want me using up her groceries. What a mean thing to say to a 10-year-old. I splurge on butter, cheese, and the good sourdough breads now as an adult, and so does my daughter. Story 26. Hobbies for my kids, the ones they want. I wanted to play sports and guitar, but was always told no. I wanted to learn to play literally any instrument, but was denied. I wanted to play hockey too, but wasn't allowed. It wasn't because of money. I was put unwillingly into other activities that I never asked for or wanted. So, when my kid asked for cello lessons at the age of 7, they got cello lessons. When my youngest said they wanted to give up soccer for ballet, we swapped soccer for ballet. My only rule is they have to finish the season. They are not allowed to join a team or group and quit partway through without good reason. They have to finish the season before quitting. Story 27. Cereal. I grew up very poor. It was a luxury we just could not afford. Staying at a friend's house was sometimes a bonus because they would have Trix or Golden Grahams or, if I was really lucky, Crunch Berries. Now that I have a career job and a steady source of income, I always have a box of cereal in the pantry. Story 28. Every time I go to Costco, I am confronted by the thought that I am the only person stopping me from buying and eating an entire cheesecake, and frankly, I do not think I am ready for that kind of responsibility. Story 29. Video games and consoles. I was allowed to play video games when I visited cousins or friends, but my parents were adamant about no video games in the house. Story 30. An original Nintendo Entertainment System. When I was younger, my parents told me that video games would rot my brain. Also, $100 for the console back then was too much. So when I got my own money, hello, eBay. Also, jokes on them. I married a gamer. The consoles, yes, plural, came with him. Story 31. I was forbidden to eat the expensive chocolate stuff in the snack closet or pantry. So once in a while, I'd buy the expensive chocolate mint patties or sticks and squares from Ghirardelli. Story 32. My parents never owned a house or a car. We lived in a cramped 2-bedroom duplex apartment and had to either walk, take the bus, or depend on other people for transportation. I have a nice house in the suburbs that we've been in for over 20 years and have substantial equity in, and we own 2 cars that are both paid off. Story 33. Always wanted childcraft books as a kid. As an adult, I bought the set secondhand just to have it and placed it on a shelf I had made. It's just a vision I always had as a kid, to have a shelf of childcraft books in order. Story 34. Boxer briefs. Mom got mad I even asked because I was a girl. I hate women's underwear with a passion because it's all uncomfortable to me. And yes, even the boy shorts sucked. Never went back after buying my first pack. Story 35. Crunchy peanut butter. I grew up in a creamy house, and my best friend's family ate crunchy. My mom refused to even get me my own small jar. Now, there is always crunchy peanut butter in my kitchen. Story 36. The first time I went grocery shopping after I moved out, I bought those cheap little boxed snack cakes because my parents never let me have them. Jeans with holes in them. Horror movie memorabilia. Story 37. I specifically searched for Nike irons that my parents couldn't afford in high school. I didn't even ask them. They were too expensive and I didn't need them. The hard part was finding them. Left-handed clubs from 7 years prior. In addition, Nike had stopped making clubs a few years earlier. It took about 6 to 8 months of consistently checking classified ads, marketplace, used shops, and Facebook groups within a 400-kilometer radius, occasionally cross-country. I found a guy who had bought a second set when they announced they wouldn't make clubs anymore. I actually got to peel the plastic off them. Story 38. Not exactly what the question asked, but when I was a kid, I always wanted one of those battery-powered children's vehicles. You can be sure my future child is going to have one. Story 39. A Christmas tree. When I was a kid, my family wasn't really big on Christmas. We had a little 12-inch metal tree that sat on our coffee table. It was cute, but I always envied those tall, classic-looking Christmas trees. I'm not up for the upkeep of a real tree, so I bought a really realistic-looking fake one. It's 6 feet tall, and I bought red and gold ornaments to go on it. My husband says it looks like a Hallmark tree, which is exactly what I was going for. It makes me so happy to put it up every year. My husband and I started all these cheesy little Christmas traditions too. So I'm glad our kids will have those memories one day. Story 40. Shoes I like. Anything I like. But really, shoes. I bought hundreds of pairs of shoes, mostly boots. There came a time when I had to move and downsize, and that's when I realized I had a serious problem with impulse control surrounding shoes. I wasn't allowed to wear what I wanted. My mom wanted a girly girl, and I'm not that. I have better impulse control now, but still a wonderful collection of boots. Anyway, today my mom asked why I had Lucky Charms s'more cereal as I had never eaten those cereals as a kid. Well, Mom, I wasn't allowed to eat sugary cereal as a kid, but now I'm 47 and I can eat what I want. Story 41. No, not really as a child, but rather as a 16-year-old teenager. I wanted to buy a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia, and my parents insisted on a Subaru. At 34 years old, I finally bought one, and 26 years later, it's still a thrill to drive. Story 42. Dumb thing milk. My mom always made powdered milk. It wasn't a financial thing. She just grew up on it and didn't understand why it tasted so bad in comparison. Story 43. A ball python. My mom said I could never have a snake as long as I lived with her. Well, once I moved out, nothing could stop me. She is now 7 and doing great. Story 44. I painted my walls. We always rented and were never allowed to paint them. But now that we own a house, I can paint my walls however I want. We also bought a house with a treehouse. I need to fix it up before my little one is big enough to use it, but I'm expecting to spend lots of time in it myself. Story 45. Basically anything and everything I want, I take care of my bills and animals, but if I want something enough, I get it. I'm 28, can't have kids, don't ever want them, and I'm just enjoying my own life. I take road trips, go on long vacations, visit internet friends I've known for years. I just do whatever I want.